For those who spent their childhood in the 1990s, discussions about the best PlayStation games were a common playground occurrence. Here, I've assembled a list of the all-time best PS1 games in a ranked order. The Sony PlayStation, which later became known as the PS1, made its debut in 1994, contending with the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn. The PlayStation carved its niche in the 90s gaming world with its memorable games released during that period. So with such an extensive library of iconic characters, adventures, and stories, I thought I'd ask the question, what are the best PlayStation games of all time? I've compiled 13, yes that's a weird number, but I've compiled 13 of the most iconic titles we can think of, from action games to platformers. Number 13, Diablo. Although more synonymous with the PC gaming market, Diablo on PlayStation 1 was a much more competent port of the original and exceeded many critics' expectations. While it was inferior to the PC version that came around a year earlier, the conversion from keyboard to controller was seen as an improvement by some players. In general too, the multiplayer aspects of Diablo are what made it an iconic dungeon crawler. Its influence extends as far as 2024, with the recent Diablo 4 setting records as the fastest selling Blizzard game of all time. Number 12, Ape Escape. Ape Escape's 3D platforming combined with its innovative controls made it a popular game for PlayStation gamers. More specifically, the game was heavily centered around the analog sticks for movement and action. Left thumbstick moved the main character around the screen, and the right thumbstick was used for various actions. It was this aspect of Ape Escape that critics enjoyed at the time, with one review calling them beautifully executed. Even today, the game remains a popular game with PlayStation enthusiasts, and thanks to its availability on modern systems, it's still fully accessible in 2024. Number 11, Medieval. Made by a British team with very British qualities, the whimsical yet spooky Medieval is a fan favorite for players to enjoy around Halloween time each year. While the game did sport some awkward camera controls and clunky movement, its theme and narrative are fondly remembered by anyone who played the original back in the 1990s. It actually later got a sequel, Medieval 2, and 2 remakes on the PSP and the PS4. The nature of this game led to it becoming a classic on the PlayStation, earning it a place as one of the best PS1 games of all time. It's just a shame that the main character did not become a PlayStation mascot. He looked so goofy. Number 10, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Besides this game being just a very fantastic platformer, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, that's a weird name to say, is also a technical and a creative masterpiece. From the creative character designs, to the iconic sound effects, and the layers of humor littered throughout the game, make it an easy game of the generation contender for the 90s, but add to that the precise movement, tough gameplay, and intelligent narrative also make it a memorable game for anyone who grew up wanting a more mature title compared to the others. Number 9, Driver. While this game is very overshadowed by the 3D GTA games that would come only a few years later, Driver's simple idea of making a crime game where the action is centered all around driving, it was unique and fun for the time. It was directly inspired by the car chase movies of the 60s and 70s like Bullet, The French Connection, and the aptly named The Driver. Now, the internet tells me anyone who played this will remember the infamous parking lot tutorial level, which was less of a tutorial for the game and more of a lesson in patience. I've never played this game, but yeah, if you have, you'll probably remember that. Number 8, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Most people remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, as well as its sequels, for its electrifying soundtrack and the control system and the perfect form. It is the perfect game of its kind. with a physics engine that completely emulates the feelings of skateboarding. I mean, a lot of sports games of their time often feel like they're popular with the movement, and then they just get replaced by something new and better a little bit later. And while this game still does feel like it needs to be a game of the 90s, there are a few skateboarding games that have come to replace it long after its time was up. Even today, most gamers will cite Pro Skater as their beloved childhood game. I think Skate 3 is better, honestly. Now, don't get mad at me for putting this too low, but number 7, Spyro the Dragon. Dragging these nuts on your face! Spyro was a massive mascot for the PlayStation, probably the most recognizable character from the PlayStation, popular through the first 3 platformer games that were released during the PS1's lifespan. It raised the bar for 3D platformers on the system, utilizing flight mechanics as an additional parameter of its platform aspects. The collectibles to be found in each level gave the game a large amount of replayability, while its colorful animations and smart graphics made it a memorable experience for any kids growing up with a PlayStation. It almost feels like an animated movie brought to life in video game form. Skylanders is the best Spyro's game. Number 6, Silent Hill. Silent Hill's horror mechanics was something unparalleled at the time of its release in 1999, and even today, it remains one of the most influential spooky gaming experiences you can get. The game featured monsters and environments influenced by the protagonist's mental state, giving each enemy encounter a reason to exist within the story. And also, its foggy atmosphere and the creepy sound effects also add to this unsettling nature of the world, creating a feeling of total, what's the word I'm looking for? Total of imprisonment? Is that the word? Yeah, we'll go with that. Within the town of Silent Hill. Konami messed up this franchise so bad, and I'm sorry to all you Silent Hill fans. Here's another one that you should not be mad at me for putting low on the list. Number 5, Crash Bandicoot. If Spyro is not the most memorable PS1 mascot, Crash Bandicoot definitely is. This game's energizing platforming made it a fun experience for those looking for a challenging game, because honestly there weren't that many at that time, in my opinion. But it's just not the game's difficulty people remember it for, but also the colorful environments, the clever level design, and the funny characters helped establish Naughty Dog's reputation among the video game community. Yes, that's the company that made it. I don't know why, that's their name. There you go. And they would later go on to develop the Uncharted and The Last of Us franchises. Yeah. Number 4, Tomb Raider. We could not talk about the mascots of the PlayStation 1 without talking about the Tomb Raider main character. This is on God one of the best PS1 games ever. That's why it's on this list. I'm so stupid for saying that. Tomb Raider follows the adventures of Lara Croft, an archaeologist seeking the fabled Scion of Atlantis. Yeah, I don't know. I just looked this up. Set in various exotic locations across the world, the game features a mixture of platforming sequences, puzzle solving, and combat encounters. What made this game particularly iconic was the character becoming a gaming icon. Following the release of the original game and its sequels, the main character, I think, what was her name? Laura? Laura was featured in commercials for a variety of different products and also made a lot of other appearances in other media forms and sponsorship deals. Even today, she's one of the most popular gaming characters out there. I think they made a Tomb Raider movie too. I think so anyway, I don't know. Either way, Laura's a baddie. Number 3, Resident Evil. Resident Evil's movie style, with its opening live-action cutscene and pulpy horror elements, made it a household name upon its original 1996 release. When paired with its intense survival horror gameplay, the game quickly became a staple of the genre and went on to inspire countless sequels. What was most impressive about Resident Evil, though, was its ability to work beyond its limitations. It had 3D graphics rendered onto a 2D background to work through the hardware limits. This game has aged really well as a result, and you would probably think it's a lot more recent than it actually is. Maybe like early 2000s, I don't know. Either way, though, they should definitely remaster this game. Maybe they have already, I don't know, I don't pay attention to this franchise. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII. Do I really have to say much? Although the Final Fantasy franchise was already 7 games deep by then, plus a few spin-offs, Final Fantasy VII was Square Enix's first, what is that word, pilgrimage of the series into 3D. Similar to what Capcom did with Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII used pre-rendered backgrounds with the character sprites imposed onto them in real time. But what resulted were probably the best cutscenes at the far beyond the PlayStation limitations at that time. But I think what people will ultimately remember about Final Fantasy VII is its story. It had a very deep story and like a very deep message. At least that's what I read or heard. But it also still had like the best RPG combat. So yeah, there you go. And number 1, Metal Gear Solid. I've talked so much about Metal Gear on this channel. Y'all already know it's my favorite franchise ever. So y'all should probably already expected it for it to be number 1 on this list, but still, I mean, come on, bro. What is there I have not said about this game? The emphasis on stealth without initiating combat made Metal Gear Solid a pioneer of the early 3D games. This masterpiece would come to inspire countless stealth games that came after it, where like you had to sneak through enemy bases rather than fighting them, like Splinter Cell. Also, the long cutscenes and the very detailed and elaborate story. This game can also be seen as a key player, probably in the evolution of video games. I could go on and on, but this is just a few of the reasons why this is the best PS1 game ever, and why so many people have said that Metal Gear Solid 1 is their favorite game on the PlayStation 1. And that's it for my best PS1 games list. If you liked it, I might do a PS2 game tier list. Tier list? Probably not tier list, but you know, probably just a list like this. If you hated it, I completely understand why. I'm kind of biased, honestly, but yeah, you can get mad at me if you want to. I completely understand why. But anyways, if you made it this far, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Be sure to leave a like on this video and be sure to subscribe. Also, turn on those post notifications so you never miss another video. Be sure to share this video as well. It just helps me out and it'll really make me happy as well. Apart from that, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below what else you want to see on the channel. And I'm going to see y'all later. Goodbye!